Hi there, my name is Greg Beneteau and I'm the editor-in-chief of Imprint, the student newspaper at the University of Waterloo. This is the second in our 5-part series interviewing the individual candidates running for the federal election in 2011 here in Kitchener-Waterloo. And today I have with me both the present and the former versions of Andrew Telegdi, who of course used to be Fed's president. We were fishing this out of the archives. Andrew, it was very nice of you to come by and see me today.
Oh, nice to be here, Greg. Back in the days when I came to University of Waterloo, we used to use Fortran, where you had key punch cards, and then you had to do your program. It took a 24-hour day around, turnaround before you got your program back. And anyway, and this mainframe computer we used to have over Manhattan computer used to be huge. It was one of the wonders of the world. People would come on bus tours to come and see this mainframe computer. And this BlackBerry is the great-great-great-grandson of that mainframe computer, and it's much more powerful than that mainframe computer. So anyway,
and it fits into your pocket.
And it fits into my pocket. So sometimes when I have two of them I would say, well, I'm carrying two mainframes on my belt.
This election, it seems to be an election largely about the party leaders, that people are saying that it's a referendum on the leadership of Stephen Harper versus the leadership of Michael Ignatieff.
Now, Michael Ignatieff, I think, is doing well. People are meeting him, people are seeing him. He's very open. He was down at the Laurier campus. He took questions. You know, they weren't pre-screened, and the other two times he was here, he took questions from the audience, and unscripted, which is what a leader should do, instead of being in a bubble that Stephen Harper is in. And I think Michael, with his platform, Michael Ignatieff, is appealing, I think, to the best in Canadians. And when we put together the package on supporting post-secondary education students, recognizing that student debt is huge, and you know, a big part of the platform was $1,000 to $1,500 a year for 4 years, depending on income. And the reason we're doing this is not just because it promotes equity. We're doing it because investing in students, investing in the human resources of this country, is what secures our economic future. And we believe in this right down to our bone marrow. When we came out of the recession and we were planning what are we going to do for commemorate the millennium, you know, a lot of countries build stadiums and other millennium projects. What we did as liberals was to start up the Millennium Scholarship. And because we really believe that education is the key to our success in the future of this country.
Now, Waterloo is obviously a big tech town now, having with RIM attracting all sorts of other companies to the city. Now, the issue of accountability, transparency, and integrity of the government seems to be where the opposition parties are trying to hit the Conservatives the hardest. Issues of spending for the G8 have been front and center for the last 24 hours or so. But it's one thing to criticize the government in power. What would the Liberals do in order to fix some of the problems with politicization of decisions at the government level?
I think what you have to be is you have to be transparent, and you have to be accountable. And you can't have accountability without transparency. I mean, this government was found in contempt because on some very big ticket items, such as the stealth jets, such as the prisons, they didn't put a price tag on, or the corporate tax cuts. And when the Conservatives, when they came out, they said, oh, the jets are going to cost $16 billion. Well, the budget officer has already said it's going to cost $30 billion, and the American experts are saying it's going to cost a lot more. Same thing with prisons. I mean, these guys, Conservatives, want to build prisons to follow the American model, which doesn't work. I mean, the Americans have the most punitive model. They jail more people than any other nation in the Western world, and they got the highest crime rate in the Western world. They are actually working in a bipartisan fashion right now in the United States to see if they can copy the model that Canada has. And here we are looking to go where the Americans are trying to get away from, it doesn't make any sense. And if you spend $13 billion on prisons, you're not spending that on education, you're not spending that on prevention.
It seems to be an elephant in the room that not a lot of the party or the party leaders aren't discussing as much as it seems voters would like them to. There's a concern about how we're going to be able to fund healthcare into the future with an aging population.
In terms of specifically to healthcare, healthcare was brought in across Canada by Lester B. Pearson, a Liberal government, so we very much are committed to healthcare. And we have the negotiations coming up with the provinces, and Michael Ignatieff has already said that he's going to increase funding by 6%. Now the other thing, and we have to make sure that healthcare is available to all, and that the drugs are not an impediment for people's health. And healthcare is something that we're very keen on. We're also very keen on having compassionate leave for people, that they can go and take care of a loved one. And what was introduced in the program is for somebody who was a critically ill relative, that they be allowed to have up to 6 months of unemployment insurance, and also some tax credits that they can take care of that individual. Now that's much more humane in a personal sense, but it's also cost effective because their family members are there providing care. Whereas if you had to pay a professional for it, it would be, would be more costly. In matters of the environment, I don't think we have a bigger challenge than that. When I was at the University of Waterloo, I was instrumental in helping start up WPIRG. And WPIRG is an environmental and a organization dealing with social issues. And it's important that we very much invest in that. Back in the election of 2005, Stéphane Dion brought the world together on an agreement on Kyoto. And since the Conservative government has come in, they have done everything in their power to do nothing. And all they seem to care about is the exploitation of the tar sands. It's almost like they're paranoid that the age of carbon is going to pass, and they're going to have tar sands left in the grounds in Alberta, which is totally the wrong approach. What we have to do is we have to develop environmental industries by encouraging a greener economy. And we're falling behind on this, and what we're trying to do now in this budget is to enhance green energy industries by having a tax credit of $13,500 for people doing retrofits in their homes, that it's going to reduce greenhouse gases. And this will be an ongoing program. It's not something, a one-shot effort, but it will be ongoing because we recognize that we need to make that investment to get industry to get on board.
The Conservatives' main platform, or their main argument to voters, seems to be that they are the most responsible managers of Canadians' money, and that is the reason why they should be elected again. How do you respond to that?
Well, first of all, the Conservatives are contemptuous of Parliament. They're the first government that has been found in contempt of Parliament. But let's look at their economic record. When the Liberals came to power in 1993, there was a $42 billion deficit, over $500 billion worth of debt. When the Liberals left office, we had a $13 billion surplus, and the debt was being reduced. The Conservatives, since their time in office, have totally reversed that. They got rid of the surplus that the Liberals had, and we had the surplus because we wanted to be cautious, so we don't get into deficit. And when the Conservatives came in, they spent the surplus very foolishly, and now we're ending up that we're going to add another $200 billion to the debt. If you go back to the last election, Stéphane Dion mentioned that we're heading into hard economic times and that we got to watch out because we're going to have deficits. And Stephen Harper says there will be no recession. If there would have been a recession, it would have happened by now. And he said there would be no deficit. And he said he would not do any stimulus funding to help the economy, the Canadian economy. It wasn't until the opposition parties got together that he came in with a stimulus package. Otherwise, he would have been thrown out of office. So the Conservatives, as being good fiscal managers, is a myth, just as much as Republicans being a good fiscal managers in the United States is a myth, because it was the Republicans that have virtually bankrupted the United States of America.
The last election was a real squeaker.
Yeah.
You lost your seat by just 17 votes. However, observers have noted that the reason for that loss wasn't necessarily because the conservative gained support in this riding, but rather that Liberal supporters didn't show up to vote on voting day. How are you working to reverse that trend this time around?
Well, we're working on it. We got a very vigorous campaign. There's a lot of anger at Stephen Harper as politics of division, and I think there's a much better reaction. Canadians don't want to spend $30 billion plus on stealth fighter jets when we have other priorities. Canadians don't want to do American-style mega prisons, and Canadians certainly don't want to give their most profitable corporations a $6 billion tax cut. Where does that make sense? But putting money in education is important. It's investing in our future. Putting money in crime prevention is important. Putting money into the environment is important. Putting money into taking seniors out of poverty is important. You know, it's only $400 million to double the guaranteed income supplement for seniors, which will lift most of them out of poverty. That's like 1/15 of the $6 billion corporate tax cut that Stephen Harper wants to give. And that is wrong. And I think they have the wrong priorities. And I think Canadians also want transparency, accountability, and civility in government. And Michael Ignatieff gives that alternative. And I think Canadians will embrace it. I spent a lot of time encouraging students to vote, and ever since I was the president of the Federation of Students. When I was the president of the Federation of Students, I encouraged them to get involved in municipal elections so we could have student representation on council, because so many issues related to students at the city level. But voting is a real responsibility of citizenship, and I hope that people take it seriously and exercise their franchise.
Sounds good. Thank you so much for coming out to speak with me today, Andrew.
Thank you, Greg.
So, for continuing coverage of the 2011 federal election, you can find updates on Imprint's website at www.theimprint.ca. This is Greg Beneteau, Editor-in-Chief of Imprint, signing off.